LaMelo Ball flirts with another triple-double. Was it one of the best performances of his career? We asked that after the Hornets beat the Hawks last night. Plus, Mark Williams had the play of the day. We talk about all of it on Locked On Hornets.
We're Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods. That includes YouTube, by the way. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. I'm Walker Mail. Catch me on WFNZ from 12 to 3. That's Doug Branson, everyhornetsboxscore.com. That's where you find his Substack, Every Hornets Boxscore. And what do we have today for David? Chewbacca. Yes, another excellent nickname. The Chewbacca, the Sultan of Sneakers. He's had a million nicknames. That's David Walker. Find him on Twitter, @David B. Walker. Do you approve of the new nickname, or do you like the other ones better?
I like this one. You never know what's going to come out. This is a good one, though.
Chewbacca is my favorite. I'm a Star Wars geek, though.
Chewie.
So I'm all about it. Chewie is fantastic. All of it. Very, very good. Let's get to the game last night. LaMelo Ball, I thought, was amazing just as much as everybody else did who was watching this game. But I did have this just little teaser. So for those that don't know, every once in a while during a cold open, there will be some technical difficulties, or I will just flat out mess up, and then we have to repeat it. And we've gotten better over the years where it doesn't usually take 2, 3, 4, 10 times, but it did happen today. And in the tease, I asked the same question that I did in this cold open. Was it one of the best performances of LaMelo's career? It might sound a little hot, but this is the reason I ask. 30 points for LaMelo on 12 of 19 shooting, 6 of 10 from 3. Okay, shooting great. Points are there, all of that. 15 assists. He had only 6 rebounds, but still 15 assists, I think, more than accounts for that. On top of the 30 points, but here's another one. 0 fouls. 0 personal fouls for LaMelo Ball. Something very weird to see from LaMelo, who is one of the most prolific foulers in the game today. David, I ask you, do you think it's a little too hot to ask him? You got the Bucks games up there. You got some Pacers performances. I mean, he kills Indiana. But I do think this is absolutely one of the better performances I've seen.
Yeah, for one reason, Doug called out in his Every Hornets box score today. It's Atlanta. You have all full reign to get wins against Atlanta this season. Whenever you can do that, as LaMelo said, it's 30 minutes right down the road, and it's a natural rivalry. It's a natural rivalry, and LaMelo. Did you see that, Doug? Did you hear about that?
I did. He was mistaking. It's an easy mix-up. He was mistaking Atlanta for Gastonia. It's an easy mix-up. The Gastonia is a growing metropolis. He thinks it's Atlanta.
It's either or
he's talking plain. He's talking plain minutes.
Yeah,
right?
It's the lifestyle of a private jet, baby.
Exactly. That's what I recognize it as. Right. I'm like, by chopper, 45.
30 minutes away.
I'll tell you this though, Walker, he doesn't have that playoff success, right? I mean, that's where career defining performances are really stamped. He doesn't have that yet. So, I mean, anytime he does this, 0 fouls, against Atlanta at home, a prolific, energetic game, it's got to be ranked up there with the best of his career.
What do you think, Doug?
Yeah, I think it definitely, you could make an argument, and I think that speaks more to his not being involved in a lot of, important games, more so than, it speaks to this particular game. But look, 30 points and 15 assists, gaudy numbers. The previous 2 games, he was 1 rebound away from a triple-double. Steve Clifford joked after the game, tell LaMelo to rebound a little bit more. He can get these triple-doubles. He had 6 in this one. He was joking, obviously.
But
6 made threes.
Classic.
Yeah, you never know. But 6 made threes, and 4 of them came in the third quarter, and that was a defining quarter in this game when Atlanta they were trying to make their run, especially offensively. But this game, meaningless. And I'll say this, if I were to argue against this being one of the better games of his career, or the best game of his career, I guess, if that's what we're talking about, is that he did have an assist to Gordon Hayward late, but the huge plays were PJ burying the dagger 3, Mark blocking Trae's 3-point shot, and then Gordon Hayward hitting the 3 at 1:56 left. So, he didn't have that sort of narrative shot in the game. That would be my only argument against it. But I totally could see this argument.
Yeah, and he did assist on that Mark Williams breakout, right? He gave a nice little
the tap
LaMelo
out was
classic
excellent.
touch pass was beautiful. And so there's not many guys that do that just instinctively. He's one of them. So that did help for that break.
Well, plus Mark Williams needs all the space he can get to beat the defense on a fast break, and so he was able to do that. Yeah, you had something else, Doug?
Well, yeah, and really 15 assists is a gaudy number, but he could be doing that more often if this team were shooting better. I mean, this was, for this season, an unprecedented offensive output. I think they finished with 20 made threes. It was insane. It was kind of the type of performance that they were known for last season. I mean, they got 43 wins last season because their shooting was able to basically cover up a lot of the other sins that team had. This season, that shooting has not been here for a variety of reasons, and they're really the same team defensively that they were last season. And so, he could be putting up these kind of numbers if guys were just shooting better.
Oh, and we talked a little bit about since the trade deadline, since the season has been going downhill, which basically has happened since the start. What do you watch for? What is the reason to watch the Charlotte Hornets team? And you got it last night with LaMelo. You got it with Mark. You got it with some of these other nice performances, but you can't expect that consistently or they'd have more wins, right? LaMelo, he is the special one here. And then Mark Williams, he's the exciting one that might just solve the problem that we have been trying to solve for the last decade at center. Mark Williams has that ability with what he's been able to do since entering the rotation. And we'll just get to the play before we move on to the next segment. That was amazing. Mark Williams on the perimeter, where he's been on the perimeter quite a bit the last few games, since playing a lot more. Like we see him in those moments and lots of pick and roll situations that he's put in. Now, Clint Capella, I thought Nikola Jokic got Mark Williams the best of him, and of course, the dude's the MVP. It's exactly what everybody expected going into that game. I thought Clint Capella did too for a large portion of this game. Clint Capella was more physical, and this is the one where I thought, okay, that's an outright post loss, if you will. You had one against Jokic, okay, MVP. I think you got one against Capella, and it doesn't mean that I think Mark Williams was awful in all aspects. We're about to give him all the praise in the world here. I did think Clint Capella played better than him for sure in the early going. But then you're out on the perimeter, you block Trae Young's shot, and then you release, right? Like you're ready to go because you kind of have that instinct as well. Not only does LaMelo have it to tip out, but Mark Williams is releasing too. And then you get your, la-di-da, 1, 2, 3 steps from basically 75 feet out. And then just this soft little dunk throw in. It was great. Steve Clifford was excited on the sideline. One of the plays of the year too, especially beating Atlanta, David. It was awesome.
Yeah, and I think that was a big concern, especially around draft time, was how would Mark Williams handle, not even thinking about like matching up against people like Trae Young on the perimeter, but just being kind of in space. And I think he's handled himself fine so far. He's shown me that he's a little more athletic, a little more able to move in those spaces. And he just does things, at 7 feet with that long reach, and especially around the basket, that you just can't, you can't teach. You can't teach height, guys. I don't know if you've heard about that, but so he's just in there taking up space, and his hands are so good right now that he's able to catch those balls and finish. But I mean, that was a special play, and he makes, he's having trouble with veteran post guys. Everyone's going to have trouble with Jokic. Capella is, diving to the rim. So there's all good lessons in there. But Mark Williams still managed to make an impact on the game, shooting only 7 shots, right? They obviously don't need him to be a scorer, but he's still giving you 15 points. He's making impact plays, and that's pretty big. That's not something you would expect. I mean, Trae Young had to be salivating when he saw Mark Williams out there, and they got the best of him. So you have to feel good about that.
Oh, he was absolutely attacking Mark Williams. I mean, there's no question about it. In the past couple of games, you've seen teams really go after Mark Williams, and that makes sense. These are teams that all need to rack up wins for playoff positioning, and they understand where the greatest weakness is with the Charlotte Hornets team defensively, and it's with Mark Williams in the pick and roll. And I think Mark Williams is a smart guy, so I think he's going to learn from all of this time that he's going to get for the rest of the season and then into the offseason and come back. In the storyline next season is most likely going to be, wow, Mark Williams has really improved his pick and roll defense, especially if Steve Clifford sticks around, because, I think if he spends some time with Steve Clifford in the offseason, he will definitely soak up the knowledge that Steve Clifford can provide for him, because Steve has coached a lot of great bigs as an assistant coach and as a head coach. So I'm not worried about that. But really, he's either got to beef up and toughen up, especially on the boards, or he has to learn how to shoot threes. If he does both, then we're talking about maybe a Giannis level sort of transformation. But he's got to do one or the other. Because at this point, he's such a negative on the boards. What did he finish with? I think he finished with 5 rebounds, okay? And he played 29 minutes. You can't finish with 5 rebounds in 29 minutes. And you didn't even have a game where LaMelo was stealing a bunch of rebounds. LaMelo only had 6. And they got crushed on the boards in this one. 16 offensive rebounds for Atlanta. So one or the other has to happen for Mark Williams for his career to sort of reach an all-star level.
Well, and I totally expect him to put more weight on. The NBA does a phenomenal job at that. You have your instances where it doesn't work, I guess. People will bring up Kevin Durant, and maybe there are some skinny players out there for sure. Mark Williams is going to put weight on. I have zero doubt about it, because he has to. And I even think if he does shoot threes, the guy's 7'1". It's not like you're going to play him at power forward and not bring him in. Right. I don't think there's any shot, even if he becomes a 40% 3-point shooter, dude's putting on weight. I think so. It's all about, can he get leverage? Can he deal with smaller players? I'll tell you, as a post player, sometimes, man, it's way worse to deal with guys that can get under your hip and take you for a ride than the taller guys, because then you just can't get position. And so when Clint Capella has that physicality, he's mean, he's also diving, and he's pretty athletic too. It's tough. And so, yeah, Mark Williams is going to have to absolutely beef up, learn the tricks of the trade on how to establish position down low. And if he does that, then, yeah, hopefully the rebounding numbers go up, because you're right. 5 at 7'1", you got to rebound better than that. There's just no doubt about it, because you at 7'1", that's you going big, which means other players are going to be smaller, which means they don't have a great shot of getting the rebounds. That's you. That's what you got to do. So there's no doubt about it. All right, Mark Williams, LaMelo Ball, those are absolutely reasons to watch the Charlotte Hornets. We got a couple of other ones, though, for you coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Let's talk Bryce McGowan's after the weekend that he had, also getting some run in this game against Atlanta. And then we'll go to Doug's notebook, empty what we've seen, and talk a little bit about the observations, get David's takes on the trade deadline. We still have a lot to do here on Locked On Hornets. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel, the midway point of the NBA season. Really, it's here and it's gone now, and it's the perfect time to download FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook, and because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000, that's the reason it's so great to be a part of it. That's bonus bets back if your first bet does not win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, it's secure, it's super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and threes drained. So many things you can bet on. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. More Locked On Hornets coming up next.
Is Locked On Hornets.
I know a lot about the weight room. I know a ton about the weight. I don't lift a lot of weights, but I do kind of stand around the weight room. Are you using that? You're good? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. And I stand around the weight room a lot.
Do you have the high socks and the headband on with your hair tied back?
Oh yeah, big white tube socks for sure. Yeah, headband. Yeah, I've got it all. I've got these headphones right here that you see me wearing on YouTube right now. I take these into the gym. It's not just, it's about looking professional. You got to look the part, right? Dress for the job that you want. That's how I feel about how I am in the weight room.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
David Walker joins us, making a weekly appearance, possibly 2 appearances this week because of the All-Star break coming up. It's David's favorite time of year. We always have him. It's an annual tradition to bring David Walker back to talk about the All-Star break. So we'll get to that later on in the week as well. Friday, we'll bring you back on and we'll talk a little bit more about it. I wanted to discuss the trade deadline with you, though. We have not gotten your trade deadline takes. What did you make of how the Charlotte Hornets operated? Jalen McDaniels, Mason Plumlee, no Terry Rozier trade, no Gordon Hayward trade, nothing like that. What was your overall takeaway?
Yeah, not enough second round picks coming back. I mean, apparently there was like there was 40 to 50. I feel like should have been the goal. No, I mean, I wasn't too surprised. I think you guys hit on a bunch of it earlier, but I mean, we just have not seen a big blockbuster trade at the trade deadline, right? So like, we're not going to see the Hayward. Once things got shaken up with the Lakers, it didn't feel like Terry would be moving out either. And so Plumlee felt about right. Market's never been higher. God bless. He did his thing here. It was fun to see him kind of max out. And, past that, the McDaniels trade, the reactions you were getting, you guys saw it. I mean, everybody on Hornets Twitter saw it, like disappointment, kind of being upset at that trade. But gosh, you look back at the play since his name popped up in trade talks, it just has not been impactful, and it's been head scratching more often than not. So, I mean, it felt like he would be the one to possibly move out. You thought maybe Kelly may be in there, but the injury is such a question mark. So, I mean, not too many surprises for me, and not really, honestly, like not too many reasons to just be upset, other than the fact that there was nothing big happened. There were some things that happened. It's not going to change the trajectory of this season, and I didn't have that expectation. So for me, it was a little more par for the course. They try to do a few things here and there, pick up a couple second round picks. But Doug, to your point, it's like, how do you even pocket those? Like, what do you even do with those? You just put them on your pillow at night and hope hope you can use them someday down the road.
You take them to a coin star at a Food Lion.
Right.
I'm pretty sure you lose 1 second round pick when you turn them all into Adam Silver, at least one. I mean, so that's why people are trying to pick it all up, because you got to pay for the machine somehow. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different second round picks that are exchanging hands here, and no Jalen McDaniels, no Mason Plumlee now, right? Like, so now, I mean, we keep asking the question, what is there to draw you to this Hornets team? And we talked about LaMelo and Mark in the first segment. But, Doug, I know you've been a big fan of Bryce McGowan's, and I know you put that out on Twitter. He's been back in the rotation. Steve Clifford, he took questions about not only Bryce, but James Bouknight. And when he was asked about Bouknight, he brought up the second rounder from Nebraska, saying, look, James has a good attitude about playing in Greensboro. He just needs to see the floor, and the schedule is kind of worked out to where we're playing the same night that the Swarm is. And because Bouknight is down there, it's really a lot, to do with Bryce McGowan's having passed him on the depth chart, and that's why he's getting all of these minutes with the Charlotte Hornets as we speak. I know you're excited about that as well.
I really am, because I think he has we've talked about how sort of he belongs on the floor, like he looks very comfortable out there. He's still making rookie mistakes. This Atlanta game in particular, there were multiple instances of him, either turning the basketball over or not being in the right position, or, he had a transition possession where, he really needed to wait for that secondary break, but instead he took it right into, I think, DeAndre Hunter and just got it swatted back, turned it over. So, but then he learned from that. There was a following transition possession where he did wait for the secondary break, and he got it to PJ Washington for a bucket. So, things are going to happen for McGowan's. I'm super excited for him, because I think, again, you look at just sort of the size for his position and his ability to, when he does attack, to finish through contact. I think it's been super impressive. I'm really excited for McGowan's. And I think, he makes more sense just when you think about Jalen and what they're missing from the lineup. It makes more sense to play him than Bouknight. What I'm still surprised at, and I think hopefully will change as this season moves along, is that they're still not really finding McGowan's for a lot of offense. And that bench unit needs offense. They don't have really a go-to scorer without Kelly Oubre out there. And so I'd like to see them run a little bit more of let McGowan's make some mistakes, run a little bit more of the offense through him, instead of having Terry or LaMelo or Gordon, whoever is out there from the starting unit with that bench unit, taking so many possessions.
David, are you excited about Bryce too? Yeah, because when we talked about the deadline stuff, just where the assets are, how they rank, at least the ones that are already here, not including draft picks. Bryce McGowan's was the guy I was like, I'd rather not include him in any of these trades. Sure, he's not untouchable because LaMelo's the only guy there, but I'd rather not. I'd like to hold on to Bryce McGowan's and see what he can develop into. So how excited are you about just the potential of what he could bring as a second-round pick, maybe another one Mitch Kupchak hits on?
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. If you're upset that that they traded McDaniels because of the development he was able to show, you should be tuning in to watch McGowan's. Get in early, right? Get in on the ground floor of this and be there the whole way, because he's shown flashes early on in his rookie year that's got to have you encouraged. I mean, was a guy like a lot of the draft reviews coming out were, couldn't really score, couldn't shoot, couldn't really give you much of anything on offense outside of maybe slashing, but maybe it would give you some defense. And I think we've seen a lot more than that this year. So you have to be on the upside of him being able to improve and reach a higher ceiling. And like I said, like they've been able to do that. I mean, they have been able to do that. You can argue with, or you can be upset with the fact that maybe they're moving on from some of these guys. I'd argue that maybe McDaniels is pretty close to his ceiling. You know what I mean? Gets in a better situation. Maybe he could have some moments, but McGowan's maybe the next man up as far as second round picks. And you would like to see him with a little more punch off the bench, though, to your point, Doug.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll get in now because he's going to trade him for a net second-round pick in return. So make sure
you dare.
Make sure.
Don't
I'm just
you
telling
dare.
you.
Don't you do it,
Don't
Mitch.
talk to me. Talk to Mitch. I'd love to hold on to him if he
got
pans
my eyes
out.
on you, Mitch. Don't
him.
you dare move. Seriously, I think Mitch loves Bryce. I think he loves second-rounders that he hits on. And it's just crazy to think that Mark and Bryce are in the rotation right now. They're making mistakes, but they look good. And here you have the class before them, Book Knight and Kai, nowhere to be found. It's crazy.
First rounders.
Yeah.
Well, though, especially in that draft. Well, and I will say about the second round stuff, if we want to explore that a little bit more, right? He's hit on a few that are going to get second contracts or that have value, not only in the eye of the Hornets, but in the eye of all the other NBA franchises out there that would have given these other guys, playing time, right? Not only even second round picks, but Caleb Martin was not drafted. And if I'm not mistaken,
right.
So Cody obviously was, but Caleb Martin here with the Hornets develops into a player where the Heat are actually using him now. Cody gets a 3-year, $8 million a year contract, so they value him to keep him, but they trade Devontae for a first-round pick. It's something I thought the Hornets were going to be worse, and they barely got that first-round pick from the Pelicans, but they got it, so thank God. And then it turns out to be a good trade after that. And now they're trading Jalen McDaniels. And so I just hope they're able to capitalize enough on this value. I think the most they've been able to capitalize so far on is a first rounder from the Pelicans. With Devontae, that's the best one. And now Devontae's since gone to San Antonio. And we'll see what happens with Bryce. Is he just going to be the latest second round pick that either gets a small second contract, yet a second contract, or does he have the highest potential, or is he going to be shipped somewhere else? We'll see. That's how Mitch Kupchak's operated so far.
But I think Bryce has the potential to be one of these sneak second round all-stars someday. I memean, that's where I'm putting the ceiling. I mean, I think Bryce has all. Now it's going to take some time, but I think he has all the tools, and they're not going to deal that. That's what they're looking for, that, and they didn't find that with Jalen McDaniels. They found the ceiling, and I think they tried to give Jalen a little bit more of an expanded role. I think Jalen's going to do great in his new stop because there'll be better players around him, and he won't be asked to do as much. But they tried to ask him to do a little bit too much, and it overwhelmed him. And I think. Well, I know you're a big Jalen fan, so you're going to disagree with that.
You keep bringing it back to him. All I said was the second round pick. I was talking about overcome, and then you're bringing it back to Jalen. I talked about Devontae, I talked about Cody Martin.
What I'm saying is that Bryce, I think, has the potential to make himself untradeable. Like, actually, this can be a valuable starting level piece for us moving forward. Those are the glimmers that I've seen from him.
How much time are you willing to give him to reach some of that?
2 seasons,
Okay. I'm just because I just how much time, because I think even with second round picks it could take longer than that, and so that's the point. I mean, if you take longer than 2 seasons, and all right, well, the second round pick isn't an all-star yet, Who cares? Like that's, I just want to see, and it doesn't have to be an all-star. I just want you to be somebody that can be able to be an athletic guy off of the bench. I think that's very possible for him. Someone that is your typical six-man microwave off of the bench that never sniffs an all-star game,
right?
But is still valuable.
Just saying, keep this tape. Keep this tape. When he makes his first all-star weekend, keep this tape.
We should.
Can we talk about Gordon Hayward? He was awesome. I want to talk about Gordon.
Yes, we should talk about Gordon. What do you want to have to say about Gordon?
Well, I mean, Gordon Hayward, the dream was real, if only for a moment. The thing that scares me, honestly, is not the amount of offense that they had in this game, in terms of scaring me from the perspective of, are they going to win too many games to compete for a Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes? That it doesn't scare me because the defense is still really, really bad. And I think that's going to, Atlanta is they're not a physical team. It's actually a great matchup for Charlotte, who is also not a physical team. You look at Denver and some of these other teams that have been able to overcome Charlotte's recent hot starts, and it's been teams that can put a little muscle into you in the second half. Atlanta can't do that. And so that doesn't scare me. But Gordon heating up and being aggressive and turning into the player that I think all of us thought he was going to be, that is a little bit scary in terms of the ability for the Hornets to win moving forward.
Yeah, super aggressive. I mean, that's the thing that stood out to me. Even before the trade deadline, he looked like he was trying to put his mark a little more on these games. And when he shoots
Where you been, Gordon?
Right? 9 of 12 and 4 for 5 from 3. I mean, he was that guy. It was turn back the clock game a little bit. I mean, that's what they signed up for. That's what the vision was. You know what I mean? So it obviously comes down to health, but it's good to see really for him, man. I mean, it's got to have been tough for Gordon over the last couple of years, just to not be able to stay healthy, not be able to do what he wants to do, kind of move how he wants to move out there. So you're not worried though, Doug. You think maybe somebody will come back to down to earth, even if it's not Gordon over these next, couple months?
Well, they need all four. They had 4 starters in this one go have
20.
one of their best games of the season, including Terry Rozier, who hit a ton of big threes in the fourth quarter. They needed every single one of those players to play to that level, best of the season, to beat Atlanta. Okay, which is now is a 500 team. They're not going to do much in the playoffs. Let's be honest. So no, I'm not totally worried. But, as some of these players that they're playing now, Mark and Bryce, if they start to figure it out, plus Gordon Hayward plays at this level, I don't think it's sustainable. But if it is, and Gordon ruins the Hornets' chances at Victor Wembanyama, I'm going to be a little upset.
100%. That's what's going to happen. So, that would be not very fun to see happen with Gordon Hayward out there on the floor. All right, let's go to one other segment here coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
We have a new Jordan movie in the works. And at the request of one David Walker, we are going to discuss it.
Michael Jordan?
Coming up in the next segment. That's right. Your Charlotte Hornets owner, at least for now. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. As a small business owner or hiring manager, you know that success in 2023 all depends on the team members you surround yourself with. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your goals. LinkedIn Jobs helps you quickly attract qualified candidates to your open jobs with targeting tools. Identify the most qualified candidates on LinkedIn Jobs and connect with them fast and for free. They make it easier to screen and rate applicants based on your job qualifications, all on one platform. Again, LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. One more segment to go. Locked On Hornets.
This is Locked On Hornets.
To start this off, we all know about LeBron and how he built a school and it got a lot of fanfare. By the time 2019 closes, Bismack Biyombo is planning to have 6 schools.
Take that, LeBron.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Okay, so apparently there is a new Jordan movie coming out that does not star Michael Jordan at all. Doesn't even feature him whatsoever. And you're going to have Ben Affleck. You're going to have Matt Damon in this cast. David, I know this is all you, baby. You are the Chewbacca of the group. And I know you're excited about this a little bit, I think. What's your take on what's about to happen with this new Jordan movie?
Yeah, very excited about this. Our buddy Sean O'Connell text or hit me on Twitter, said on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you? And there's no scale, there's no limit to this excitement right now. Yeah, Jason Bateman is involved as well. Chris Tucker, I believe, Marlon Wayans, a lot of good cast members. Affleck and Damon back together again. I've heard about this. I don't know, going a couple months back, but it's basically the story of Nike, Sonny Vaccaro, finding Michael Jordan, taking the big gamble on him, not signing any other players, but giving a signature shoe, which had not happened, to a rookie who had never stepped on the court. Doug, never happened before. Third round pick, and they decided to give that to him. They gambled on Michael Jordan, and they won. They won big.
This is crazy that they found Michael Jordan. Like, he was a national champion. He hit one of the biggest shots in college basketball history to that point.
It's true.
Like, yeah, I mean, the whole thing that, like, I get that they took a chance on one guy and went all in, and that was
not the model.
Right, but the trailer made it seem like, they went to some back road and discovered this. Who's this? Mikel Jordan? Oh, well, let's see what he can do. No,
every time I see a movie do that, I always think of the opening to Days of Thunder, where they're out in the farms of Charlotte, North Carolina. And there are farms, I guess, or there were around Charlotte at some point. But yeah, it's Sonny Vaccaro driving through the roads of North Carolina to go talk to not Michael Jordan, but it appears that Dolores Jordan will be heavily featured in this movie. So yeah, no Michael Jordan at all. I think I saw the back
do we know
of his
that?
head.
Do we know that for a fact? I know the trailer did not feature. Do we know that for a fact that there is going to be no? Maybe do we get a little bit of Michael Jordan back of the head?
Yes. So in the trailer, you can see, I believe it must be MJ walking into some sort of board meeting with that familiar gait, and whoever they got to do that is spot on. Maybe it was MJ. I don't know. Maybe he's filled in for that. But yeah, no Michael Jordan in this movie. That's the reports. So. Interesting
Michael
choice.
B. Jordan, is that the back of the head just for one snap, and that's about it?
Yeah,
I think they should. I think they should do CGI and like de-age Michael Jordan for this movie.
Yes.
That's what I think.
Well, they've done that
Jordan
in the past.
Jordan. Yeah.
And there was a commercial. Jamal Crawford played him in a famous commercial where the Bulls Michael Jordan played the North Carolina Michael Jordan. You can go look that up on YouTube as well. So, did you guys watch the trailer? Did you watch the trailer for this?
No, I've only seen. I don't think I've seen the full trailer. I've seen. Well, no, I saw like a clip of it or something like that during the commercials, and I basically saw Ben Affleck at a desk. That's the only thing I remember seeing, something like that. But the answer is really no.
Yeah, he's playing Phil Knight.
I think this is going to be a bad movie. I know Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. They've done some great. This seems a little cash grabby to me. This seems to be. I think, especially for people in the know, I guess it's going to uncover some stuff for people that don't pay close attention to this. But I don't think we're going to find out anything revelatory. I don't think that it's going to have some message that like blows you away or some idea. I mean, I really feel like this is going to be just sort of a paint by the numbers thing. I do like the casting of David Falk as Chris Messina. If you've seen the Mindy Project, he's the male lead in that show. Now, the movie will win me over. If in the sort of lead up to introducing David Falk, we get a cut scene where Alan Bristow, former general manager and head coach of the Charlotte Hornets, is trying to choke out David Falk, because that reportedly happened during the Alonzo Mourning holdout. There's a little Hornets history for you that you can find out on everyhornetsboxscore.com. But yeah, that reportedly happened. Alan Bristow trying to choke out David Falk. So if they did that cut scene, then they'll win me over.
Yeah, if that's included in the movie, then yeah, that's going to be one of the better moments of Charlotte Hornets cinema history, right? You'll have Space Jam, you'll have, I guess not cinema, but Family Matters, and then you'll have that. You'll have the choking scene in there. All right, that'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to David Walker for hopping on. Chewbacca today, the Sultan of Sneakers tomorrow. Find him on Twitter at David B. Walker.
All-Star Friday.
Yeah, Friday, baby. All-Star break. That's when it's all going down. So catch us again at the end of the week with David. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast. That includes YouTube, by the way. Now make your second listen game to game, NBA every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the league with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NBA. Again, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.